Hi guys, if it's Friday, it's Down and Dirty Woodscraft. Hi guys, and yes, I know I missed last week. I want to apologize for that. What happened was, I was going up to Kentucky to the campcraft gathering, and there'll be a video posted probably either late today or possibly Saturday, where I got some pictures and little pieces of video of that gathering, and it was a great time. I had a wonderful time. And I had set up on Thursday evening and set up to post the videos that we're going to post on Sunday and the video that was going to post on Friday for Down and Dirty. And I'd set it up, and it said it was going to take like 2.5 hours. And so I went to bed because I had to be up like at 4:30 or 5 a.m. to be out of here, heading north. It's about a 10-hour drive from me. And so I left my computer uploading, and I went on to bed. And when I got up in the morning and I walked in there expecting to be able to just turn my computer off, there'd been some sort of update or whatever, and it glitched the whole thing, and it didn't upload them. And I didn't have time. I had to go, so I had to just dump them. So you will see those videos as quick as I can. But I wanted to apologize for that. So, okay guys, this video today is in response to a young man that contacted me, and his question was about knives and knife edges, and also could apply to machetes, kukris, axes, anything with an edge. And it was, how do you know when it's sharp? How do you know if it's still sharp or needs sharpening while you're using it in the field? And what should I carry and use in the field to maintain that edge? Okay, let's deal with that first up. First off, do not ever slide your finger sideways on an edge. You can touch an edge without it cutting you. You can't slide. Now let me preface that just a second. There's a difference between a honed edge and a polished edge. What's polished? Polished is taken to a much higher degree, and we'll get to that in a minute, but understand what I'm saying. You can't touch a polished edge. It will cut you, and you will not hardly feel it. You'll think you're just touching it, and then you look back and you're cut, okay? Because the edge is that fine, the effort to go in just drops significantly. So, I'll get to a polished edge. You've got a sharp knife, or a relatively sharp knife to begin with. If you want to touch the edge, you want to put your thumb or whatever up here on it and drag flat straight down. Does it dig a little? Okay. I have known people that will do this and put up here and put on a thumbnail and see if it will shave a thumbnail. Makes my skin crawl every time I see them do it, but it does work. Okay. You'll learn to do it when you pull it. Does it have a nice even? When you pull across, is it even resistant? If it's like then it's not. It's got waves in it. But it should, as you go down that edge, lightly just sliding over. Never go sideways. Just lightly pull to you. You want your skin to ride over it, but the ridges on your skin will tell you how much tension there is, okay? And so that gives you the idea if it's sharp enough. If it just rolls over, then it's not very sharp. If it's kind of trying to grab, the more it grabs, the sharper it is, okay? Next, and we won't go into angles here because that's much more in depth. But if I start out with a knife and I take it, and one of the things I do is this. I take my thumb and I push away from me. Okay? If there's a wire edge, and what that wire edge is, where the edge where you've got it, and one side or the other has been sharpened a little bit more, and or you've done something that has caused the edge to roll over like that. So you got a little lip. So instead of that thing being vertical, it's kind of leaned over. And so this side feels smooth. This side kind of drags. That means the edge is leaning that way. Okay? Chopping does this a lot. Batoning does this a lot. It can lean the edge and make it difficult to cut with because the edge is lean. It dulls it. And you therefore have to remove a lot of metal. So we want to avoid that. But let's say I've got a knife and I've been using it for a while and it's not cutting as cleanly. when should I sharpen, which is what this young man wanted to do. Want to know. My advice is start using the knife. When you get tired or your hand starts to get tired, that's the time to stop. Check the edge. Take a break. If it's not as sharp, that's when I want to hone it for just a minute. Rest a second, go back. Most people who do not have hand strength because they have not developed that much hand strength by actual doing. And this is something that you don't see a lot of today. Many of the people today, young people especially, do not have a lot of hand strength. Typing on phones does not develop hand strength, okay? And so your hand fatigues because you're asking the same handful of muscles within the hand to do all the work. When that happens, you're going to slip, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to hurt yourself. It's better to stop, rest a minute, flex your hand, get some blood back in there, and then come back to it. That's a safety issue as well as a honing issue. So I come up to the knife and I feel the edge and see if it's smooth or if it's got a bite. If it's starting to get a little smooth and not as much bite, then I want to hone it. Now, another question that was asked by him was what could I use in the field? And one of the things that was asked was, could he use a ferro rod to sharpen? My answer is no. And it comes down, remember that game you played when you were young of rock, paper, scissors? Okay, each one trumps the other. The ferro rod is hard, but it is not nearly as hard as the knife. And to cut the steel, therefore to sharpen it, it must be harder. Could the ferro rod hone a steel? If you mean polish, yes, it could be used to polish an edge. But since we use these and make them all jagged, it's not going to be a good polishing tool. A brand new and unused, maybe you could use it to draw backward against it and hone it. But you know, we take belts and leather and things like that and we will polish or strop. You could strop with one of these, yes, but it's not going to sharpen. It may help wear burr off, but it will not sharpen a knife. And so that's a no, okay? A hone. And one of the things that I carry in my kit, and a lot of guys wear these around the neck, is the sharpening stones, the Viking sharpening stone. This is a good hone. It's a piece of very hard rock. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock harder than steel. So when I bear down and go with the edge, I'm polishing it, which means very finely taking off any dullness, any drag or whatever. And I'm shining it, you know, just like, you know, you wax a car, you shine it, or you take a pair of shoes with shoe polish and you shine it. You're shining the edge. And if you'll look at an edge that's been sharp for a while, but it's not been sharpened lately, the edge will have oxidized, so it's not as shiny. But if you'll take up there and you'll start stroking it, following that exact contour, it'll start shining more like a mirror. And that is honing, okay? It's a form of polishing, okay? Now these little hones work great because they got so many bevels for so many jobs. And all you gotta use is spit or oil on them. They work just fine. And you want lubrication because that's what carries the fine particles, that fine dust of steel away from the knife, okay? That also produces a slurry, which is a fancy word for polishing compound that helps polish that edge even more. But what if it's truly dull? Well, in the field, then you're going to need something to actually sharpen. And you will use a knife, hone it, use a knife, hone it over and over until you can't seem to hone it. Then you got to sharpen it. What that means in is English is that very fine, sharp edge is kind of, from usage, kind of blunted a little. And now I got to remove some metal to cut down to that fine edge again. I carry a small diamond hone with me in my kit. And with this, it's got the tapered point, it's got a flat, and then it's got a round. That gives me all the type of surfaces I need because I can cinch this up and then you put it up here and just follow the edge and the proper angle and bevel. And since it's a diamond hone, it's aggressive. It's much harder than this knife. Some people prefer to hold it like this, put the flat up there like this, and get the proper angle and push away from them. You can do that as well. Short little strokes. And then when you get it almost, go to long strokes. Take out any little waves or whatever you've done. So, to answer your question, in the field, I carry a hone. Whenever I check my edge before I start doing my project, see if it's dull or whatever. When I am doing my project and I start to get a little bit fatigued, lay it down a minute. Take a sip of your canteen, look off over your, flex your hands, get some blood back in it, pack up. Feel of it, is it not quite as sharp? Hone it for just 15-20 seconds. Polish it a little. Go back to utilizing it. When I'm done, that's when to check it and really go over it a little more detail. So the next time I pull it out, it's as sharp as I'm going to want. Now you also know, that I carry a really good leather sheath. And leather sheaths have got a lot of uses besides just to protect and carry the knife. Because after I've done that hone, on the top edge up here is really good leather. And on this back point back here and on this up underneath where this thing goes. In fact, I've rubbed a little bit of jeweler's rouge into it. And I can use this as a strop to strop my knife. Just like that. Now what does stropping do? Stropping is whenever you have sharpened a knife, and in the process of doing it, those fibers have kind of stuck up a little. Imagine it like a hair, sticking up. By utilizing the hone, I polish it, and even that can sometimes raise a little hair up. The softer leather strop rolls and works that thin piece of metal. Think of it like a piece of spaghetti until it snaps off, leaving a more smooth edge instead of that thing to kind of get in the way. So that's what that is. Now, I said it then, I was going to talk about a polished edge. I do not usually carry a polished edge in the field unless it's for a very specific purpose. I prefer more robust edge. They're not as easily damaged, and I get much more use before it dulls, because the finer the edge, the faster it dulls in heavy work. I will take, and if I need a polished edge, I will take my knife, sharpen it up as I've just described, and then when I get, instead of going to the leather strop, I will go to, say, 800 grit sandpaper. I'll take 800 grit wet dry sandpaper, and I will put it, a lot of times I'll glue it on like a paint stick stir, one of them little flat sticks, and I will strop it on that 50 strokes. Then I will go to a 1200 sandpaper, and I will strop it 50 strokes. Wet dry, I use oil. Then I will go to a 1800, a 2200, or is it 24? I think it's 2400. And then finally a 3600. When you get done, that thing is polished like a mirror. And you can just slice paper and stuff effortlessly. It's easily damaged. That's the reason I don't use it in the field unless I got to. But if I absolutely had to have something that's got to be a clean, perfect cut, a polished edge would be that way. Now, I learned this from the old guys like my grandfather and them that carried 2 pocket knives. Okay, one was the big dollar one, or the heirloom one, or whatever, and that's going to be a Case, an old Henry, old timer, or whatever. Really nice, good pocket knife, and it would be a polished edge. That thing would be like beyond a razor blade. You just, it cut anything. And that's when you need an exactly clean cut. That's when that knife came out. The other pocket knife was a cheap pocket knife that came from a dollar store or a hardware store, and was just used on one they were called Bundum stones, and had a working edge. But that was the knife that was used for all the dirty work. That was for scraping the stuff off the battery terminals, cutting sheath off of wire, cutting that thin piece of whatever. That's what that knife was used for. That was the dirty, hard work. If you had to break a knife, make it the cheap one. That honed polish edge of that other pocket knife was only brought out when it was absolutely needed. Think like a surgical scalpel, because that's what that was. I hope this answered your question. Please leave any questions or comments below, and do me a favor, guys, before you leave, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Till next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.